Since starting DOGE, Elon Musk has saved taxpayers hundreds of billions.
So the actual savings is around $2 billion, according to budget experts.
So Elon needs help, and we spoke to some people who can help him. Here's how much money they've saved you.
$75 billion, well over $10 billion, I think $10.8 billion.
$30 billion hard dollars.
$14.5 billion at least.
Hundreds of millions of dollars at NASA.
They might not be 19 and they don't have chainsaws, but these people know a thing or two about saving you money.
We did an audit that was released in October of last year, looking at pricing for spare parts for the C-17, the big transport. We identified one particularly egregious spare part. I believe it was a 7,943% markup on a soap dispenser.
There was this rapper, I think his name was Nuke Bizzle. And Nuke Bizzle, he got so comfortable stealing this unemployment insurance fraud money that he actually went online and did a video.
I just been swiping for EBD, go to the bank, get a stack at least.
It was the video that led to his capture.
Nuke Bizzle boasted about getting rich off fake COVID-19 relief funds.
Former Secretary David Shulkin had taken a European trip with his wife. It was essentially a couple of hours of meetings, but the rest of the time they were sightseeing in Europe, as well as getting tickets to the Wimbledon tennis tournament. The government had paid for this trip, so we did the investigation. The secretary had to pay back the value of the Wimbledon tickets, the value of his wife's trip.
Expensive soap, fancy tennis tournaments. You'd think Trump and Musk would be dying to work with these people. Unfortunately, that's not how this story goes.
Dear Christy.
Dear Larry.
Dear Hannibal.
On behalf of President Donald J. Trump,
I'm writing to inform you
that due to changing priorities,
Your position as Inspector General
Inspector
General of Department of Defense
at the United States Agency for International Development
of the Small Business Administration,
Department of Labor,
Veterans Affairs,
Interior,
Health and Human Services
is terminated
terminated.
effective immediately.
Thank you for your service.
Signed, Trent Morse, Deputy Director, Office of Presidential Personnel.
So who are these people, and what exactly do they do?
what inspector generals have done for almost 50 years is not only save taxpayers billions and billions of dollars.
We look for fraud, we look for misconduct, we look for inefficiencies.
Crimes committed against Medicare, against Medicaid.
It's everything from murders to threats.
Against foster care programs, fraud that involved COVID supplies.
Contract fraud to benefits fraud.
We look for that sort of waste all the time.
Over the weekend, President Trump continued his flurry of executive moves,
firing at least 15 inspectors general.
All right, so Trump fired some federal employees. Why should we care?
This is not a story of a personal tragedy for Mike Ware, right? What American taxpayers should care about is that
this was a wholesale
removal of 17, 18, 19 inspectors general.
This is historic. This has never been done with this number of IGs that have been fired at one time.
You took away the people who were charged with ensuring that Americans are covered.
Firing IGs puts up an open for business sign to fraudsters.
Administrations come and go.
It didn't make any difference to us who the president was, what the party was.
President Donald Trump appointed me.
President Biden.
President Donald Trump.
President Obama.
The only way that this is done in a fair, unbiased, and impartial way is if inspectors general are allowed to operate in an independent manner, free from political interference.
Who is he putting in our place? If he's putting in inexperienced political lackeys, folks who are lapdogs, not watchdogs, then their credibility, I think, just goes out the window. The reports will not have the same efficacy, will not have the same impact.
The big deal is that you don't want to burn down the institution that is responsible for ensuring that you have independent oversight and transparency in government.
Collectively, these people have seen it all. Crime, fraud, government inefficiency. Now that they're gone, they have some concerns about the future.
One of the impacts of these terminations is going to be a self-censorship.
I know when I left, there was a report on my desk that was once giving out. It will probably cause some angst. There would be a reluctance across the OIG community, I'm sure, with reports that may have an adverse or negative impact against that department, because they understand that, this could cause maybe loss of job.
The message is sent that if you do the work that you're intended to do and it's not popular, that you'll be punished.
Because now, if you're an auditor or if you're an investigator, why would you want to write a report that you think may get you fired?
But if you had any doubts, look at what happened to the USAID IG, Paul Martin. Great IG, well-respected.
Put out a very tough report about the negative impacts that could occur based on what they were doing to downsize USAID. The report came out on Monday night. Tuesday, he was fired.
This is not exactly how I intended to end my 40-year federal career, but so be it.
And who's gonna be brave enough to speak truth to power when speaking truth to power means you're fired the next day?
President Trump has just announced Elon Musk will lead the Department of Government Efficiency. That's DOGE.
In many ways, these people were the OG DOGE. Here's what they think of Trump's new working group.
My first reaction when I heard of DOGE, I was like, oh, this is not a bad thing at all.
They dovetail with exactly what we do in the Inspector General community. Efficiency is literally in our name. And I said, well, this is great. These are folks that we can work with.
I reached out to DOGE on 4 different occasions.
We were excited to be able to meet with them. That never happened.
Never got a call back.
They're going in and just firing a lot of people. And that is extremely dangerous to do. I was at VA for almost 9 years. I got to know it very, very well. That kind of experience is invaluable. And it's almost impossible, if not impossible, just to come in and in a matter of weeks say, I know the agency and I can make decisions and I know all the implications of those decisions. To me, that's very dangerous.
How much do you believe, Elon, you've identified in waste, fraud, abuse, corruption now? And how much do you anticipate you will?
I think he's going to find $1 trillion.
Yeah, I think so.
$1 trillion is a lot of money.
I don't think there's $1 trillion in fraud in the federal government.
Is there bloat? Is there ineffectiveness? Is there inefficiency? Absolutely.
There's no question that there's a lot of fat to trim in the federal government.
But to think that there's $1 trillion worth of fraud, and I'm talking criminal fraud, in any government organization, I just don't think is realistic.
I don't know how that's possible in a matter of 3 or 4 days or a week or 2. It takes anywhere from 9 months to a year to really determine the effectiveness of a program. And that's with the staffs that we have. I can imagine have a team of 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 19-year-olds who don't understand that particular program, how you could do that.
Good luck.
What are the guardrails here that could stop President Trump?
This is a nakedly illegal action.
So what should we take away from all of this? Will there be more fraud and corruption in America? Or does the firing of the inspectors general symbolize something much, much darker? Is our democracy in danger?
Our democracy is not even in danger, is no longer a democracy. When people don't have the freedom to speak truth to power, where independent oversight is no longer a thing, where transparency in government is viewed negatively.
When all measures of accountability, when those checks and balances that the founders put in throughout our structure of government, when those checks and balances start to fail, that to me would send off alarm bells.
I think we're getting close. I think the firing of the IGs was one where the checks and balances didn't work.
I think history is going to frown upon this moment.
I'm worried about the deafening silence that's coming from Congress and many quarters of Congress with respect to the removal of inspector generals, not as individuals, but the harm and the chilling effect this is having on independent oversight in the federal government.
Congress really needs to step up.
Congress needs to do more.
And if Congress doesn't step up and tell the administration that they want truly independent, nonpartisan inspectors general, they're going to lose a really valuable tool and resource to help them do their job. And if they're not doing their job to do oversight of the executive branch, then one of our checks and balances is going to fall.
Come on. That's when we know our democracy is in trouble. And I think, quite frankly, that that's where we are currently.